Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 14 and compare it against the iPhone 13 and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, both these phones are very interesting. They have a lot of different things going on between them. But I will tell you, if you want the newest one, clearly the 14 is better, but I think the 13 is still a very, very good value, and we'll talk about that throughout this video. If you want to pick up either one of these phones, though, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, the iPhone 13, which came out back in 2021, on the front of this phone has a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. And it's a pretty good looking panel. I thought it was a very good panel when it first came out. It was like good enough. It's a 60 Hz display. The notch was smaller than its predecessor, which was really nice to see. But beyond that, it's more or less exactly what we're used to nowadays. The 14's panel is almost the exact same thing as well. But this panel is still very good. It gets fairly bright, not the brightest panel of all time, but it's still fairly good. 60 Hz, like I said, it's a little bit higher than 1080p, but it's still a very good looking panel nonetheless. On the iPhone 14, we are getting the same size display, so it is still that 6.1-inch display. It's a Super Retina XDR OLED display at that, and it's still a very good looking panel as well. I still think it's a very good looking display, and realistically speaking, I've said this for so long now, no matter what you're really going to be doing with this type of panel, you're going to be getting a really good time with it. It's a very good display. It's a little bit better than the iPhone 13, but even that's kind of an overstatement. They're basically almost the exact same panel, same size notch for the most part, and it's still a very good display nonetheless. But the 13 and 14's display are very, very similar. In terms of the sides, you can see almost exactly the same type of phone here. Like these phones were like almost twins, which was so funny. You're getting your particular mute switch buttons here, getting your volume buttons right here. The top, nothing really different. On the side, the power button there. On the bottom, you're getting your lightning ports. So these two phones were the last two phones to have lightning ports. Since then, Apple switched over to USB-C, which is okay. We love USB-C too. But these two phones were the last ones from that perspective to have lightning. On the back side, you can see we're getting our dual camera setups. So these cameras were almost like, they were very, very similar in a lot of different ways, which it has a lot of good stuff too. But these particular phones did have that type of capability there, which was one thing to keep in mind. So with this type of device, wide and ultra-wide cameras, which again is very nice to have. Standard glass backs, so no frosted glass backs here, but this is just standard ones for the most part. And you are getting your MagSafe capability here too, which again is very cool. I love having MagSafe, although I don't really use it as much as I used to. It's still very cool that we have that type of capability here, which is a very, very nice thing to have. So on the outside, lots of similarity, lots of overlap, and I like these phones a lot because of it. But like I said before, you're definitely getting overall probably a better phone in some ways on the iPhone 14. But they are so similar, it's not even funny. So in that perspective, that kind of covers it up there. Now from the, basically the software longevity side, this is going to be the one area where maybe a phone like the iPhone 14 will win at. But even then, it's kind of complicated because both these phones share the same chipset. So because of that, how do you determine which one is going to be the way better one? Because on the iPhone 13, this one could potentially end up lasting the same amount of time as the iPhone 14. But one thing is for sure, this one is not going to last longer than the iPhone 14, and the iPhone 14 has the higher likelihood of actually lasting longer when it comes down to it. So if one phone's going to last longer than the other one, it's probably going to be the iPhone 14 when it actually comes down to it. So that right there is probably another thing to keep in mind there as well. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these devices. The iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 GB of RAM, where the iPhone 13 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. So there we go. 13 is here, 14 is here. Let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Music 3, 2, 1. Two different panels. We'll just kind of let this one go away. Mail 3, 2, 1. I think the 14 was slightly faster. Photos 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing too. App stores 3, 2, 1. So the 14 was just slightly faster there. Scrolling through. Let's go and see if there's a noticeable difference between these two, which I don't really think there's going to be. But that one kind of covers up that one. We can get into news 3, 2, 1. Why is this phone so wobbly? Okay, I think the 14 again is the faster one there, helping out of these two. Let's get into some other applications. Let's get into something like Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, again, this game isn't really that complicated or that big, but sometimes we can kind of see what's going on. You can see the iPhone 14 was actually significantly faster here. Could be a version control issue between both these phones, but that is still something that's very, very interesting between both of them. Hopping out of these two, let's get into the actual game. I don't know why we have so many pop-ups here. Getting into the game itself, you can kind of see what's going on. And once again, I don't really think it's going to be that massive of a difference. Hopping out of these two, let's get into another application. We can try something like Facebook 321. I should be logged in on both. So I was logged in on here, but not in this one. Hopping out of this one, so I'm going to stack 321. And this one did get into the ad first on the iPhone 14, so we'll kind of give that one a little bit more leeway there. Actually, the 14 kind of glitched up there in the beginning with, but they kind of equaled out a little bit, so kind of the same thing. Hopping out of these two, let's get into X321. About 14 actually was faster there. Let's get into Thank You 321. And the 14 again was a faster one. So we're seeing a reoccurring trend here for the most part, where the iPhone 14 is actually giving us better performance overall than the iPhone 13. I wasn't really expecting it at that high of a level. I was expecting it to be slightly faster. So you can see the iPhone 13 just completely glitched up here. I don't even know what's going on there. That's the first time I've seen that happen. It could be for a lot of different reasons. I will try this test again maybe mid-year of this year, maybe towards the end of this year. When the iPhone 16s come out, I'm going to be testing these ones against those ones. So maybe I'll revisit these in a way. But it is very interesting to me how good of a job the iPhone 14 was able to do today and how much faster it was over the iPhone 13. Usually I don't see these significant differences, but that in and of itself was a very surprising thing. So we'll check back in a little bit of time. But overall, with the speed comparison, that kind of covers it up there. Now from the camera side, like I said before, dual camera setups on both these phones, which is very nice to have. I love having dual cameras, and these things are no exceptions. They, kill it from that perspective, which is very, very cool. You're getting a wide and an ultra-wide camera, which again is a very, very nice thing to have. So you are getting 4K 60 on the back and the front of both of these phones, which again is very cool. And even though these things don't have ultra-wide or they don't have telephoto lenses, it's still okay for the most part. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, these cameras were very, very similar from my perspective. So you were getting, again, same type of resolutions you can film in and almost the same exact features. You're getting video mode, cinematic mode, slow mode, time-lapse, photo mode, portrait mode, and panorama mode. That's some really cool stuff. You're getting 5x zoom here and you're getting 0.5x zoom on the outside. It is a very, very good camera, and I'm a really big fan of this particular phone for the most part. I think it's great, and I think it definitely gets a job done for the most part. And I do think if I'm going to go ahead and buy a phone, this is definitely a phone that's still fairly good for the most part from the camera side. With the iPhone 14, on the other hand, this is a different, more complicated situation of a story because it is almost the same type of camera. Again, you're getting, it's supposed to be better. It's going to be better probably here and there. It's probably better than the iPhone 13, but I don't really see it. It's basically the same type of camera, which is not a bad thing. It's still a very good lens nonetheless, and it still will be giving you a lot of features and everything. I do think size-wise, maybe the iPhone 13's camera is a little bit smaller, but even then it's kind of a reach. So what I'll definitely tell you is I definitely do think a phone like the iPhone 14 is probably the one I'd recommend most people to buy. If you have the money, then go for the 14. Like this one makes a lot more sense. It's a beautiful phone, has a lot of capability, and it's definitely the phone I'd recommend, like I said, a vast majority of people to buy. But if you want to save some money, I think the iPhone 13 is a no-brainer. It's a very good phone. I like this phone a lot, and I'd recommend just about anybody out there to go and basically buy this phone. It makes a lot more sense to go and buy a phone like this rather than maybe like a 12 or an 11. This one is a very, very good device that I like a lot. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.